Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. I'm Malcolm Reed. Today I'm going to show you how I do a herb crusted whole beef tenderloin. I'm going to get my grill set up for a 2-zone fire, bring this beef tenderloin up nice and slow, then I'm going to serve it with the creamy dill horseradish sauce. You know it's going to be good. Let's get to cooking. So I'm starting with the whole beef tenderloin. I bought it in the bag. This is a certified Angus beef brand tenderloin. And if you buy the PSMO cut, what it's called in the cryovac, you'll save a little money because you can break it down, trim it out yourself. Now to get started, I use my hands to kind of separate the beef tenderloin. It really has 3 parts. It has the chain, which is kind of the fatty, more membrane piece that runs along the whole side. And you can use your fingers and kind of separate it out. And then it gets down to the tail of the beef tenderloin that kind of folds back around. You want to separate these out the best you can with your hands, and then use the knife where needed to go ahead and remove it. Now don't throw away the chain or the tail, because you can trim these up and get some great stir-fry meat, or either grind them up and make some excellent burger. But what I really want is the center piece of the beef tenderloin. I'm going to use my knife, clean the beef tenderloin up, remove any sinew, that silver skin that's on it. It's tough, and then you just kind of want to even up the cut side where they've trimmed it off the backbone. And this is what I have here, that center cut of the beef tenderloin. Beautiful piece of meat. It's also called a Chateaubriand. It's the center part of that beef tenderloin. You can also cut this up into nice thick fillets and make that filet mignon. So for the seasoning I'm using today, I'm just taking some regular kosher salt and some coarse black pepper and putting it in a little shaker dredge. And then I've got some Herbs de Provence. It's a blend of rosemary, thyme, parsley. All those good herbs are in this season. You can find it at your local store, but I really like the freshness that those herbs have. If you wanted to use fresh herbs, that'd be fine too. Just cut them up fine and mix them with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of get some olive oil on the outside of our tenderloin. That's going to help this seasoning, help the herbs stick to it. Go over all the sides with it. Maybe a little more olive oil on this side. That looks good. And now we're ready for our herb blend. It's got the salt, the pepper, all those good herbs, and that's really gonna make a nice crust on this beef tenderloin. I'm going pretty heavy with it. I want it to create a crust as it cooks. And the tenderloin can take it. This isn't too much seasoning for it. Make sure you get the edges. And if you wanted to, you could tie it up with a little butcher twine. I'm not going to today. This one has a great shape as is. So now I just want the beef tenderloin to sit here and relax. Let it come up to room temperature nice and slow. That's gonna help it cook even when we get it on the grill. It's going to need about 30 minutes of just sitting. You can take it back inside, or just leave it sitting there if it's nice and cool outside like it is here today. I'm going to fire up the grill. So for this cook, I'm using a 2-zone fire setup on my PK360 grill. I'm gonna get some broil oak charcoal briquettes going in a chimney with a couple tumbleweeds, and when the coals are good and hot, dumping them right in the far end of the PK360. You wanna make sure the intake vent is 100% open underneath the hot coals, and then the exhaust vents are gonna be closed over the coals, and it's gonna be just the opposite for the other end of the cooker. We want the exhaust open 100% and the intake closed. That way the heat draws across the 360 over the beef tenderloin, and it's going to cook it nice and slow at a steady temperature. So I've got the PK stabilized, set up for 2-zone fire. I've got my hot coals on one side. I'm going to go ahead and put my smoker wood on. I've got a couple of pieces of pecan I'm going to stick over those coals. Close the vent down. Now we're ready to put our beef tenderloin right on the cool side of the smoker, and I'm just going to set it far away. And I want the heat and the smoke to roll across the PK over the meat and out the exhaust on this side. That's what's creating that 2-zone fire. Now I've got my dot thermometer. This is the key to cooking this beef tenderloin properly. I know my grill's running in that 325, 350 range with this 2-zone setup. I'm not really worried about that temperature. I'm worried about what it's doing internal. So I'll go ahead and get my probe right in this beef tenderloin so I can monitor it. You don't want to mess up an expensive cut of beef like this by not knowing what the internal temperature is. This is what's going to save us. It's been about 25 minutes on this beef tenderloin. You can see it's at 106 degrees internal. It's cooking at a nice rate. I want to check on it right now. Let's see what it's looking like. And you can see, man, we've got that herb crust going. It's got a beautiful color. What I'm gonna do is just kind of rotate it. I wanna make sure it's cooking even on both sides because it is a little closer to the fire. We just kind of spun it around. Fire's looking good. We've already used up all our smoke from the pecan, so that's a wonderful thing. We're gonna shut the lid and we're gonna keep watching it. As it slowly climbs up, it'll be time to get it off. Then I'm gonna have to try it. All right, you can see our ThermoWorks dot is reading 125 degrees. I let it creep over 120, kind of finishing on the high side of that rare temp. I want it right medium rare, but it's still gonna carry over. So I want to get this beef tenderloin off because I don't want it to overcook. That's where you can really mess up. Just pull the temp probe out and I'm going to transfer it over to a metal pan. We're going to take it over to the cutting board and cover it loosely with foil because I really want it to rest. So I uncovered this beef tenderloin just after about 15 minutes of rest, and that is the important part. But just look how beautiful it still looks with all the herbs on the outside and that beautiful mahogany color from the pecan smoke that we added to it. It's time to slice it up now. I can't take it anymore. So I'm just going to use my knife, and you can cut this as thick or as thin as you want. For dinner size portions, I'd lean a little bit more on the thicker side. Not quite a filet mignon slice, but a little bigger than your typical, say, brisket or prime rib slice. This looks about right to me. Knife's just gliding right through it. You're gonna preserve all the juice from letting it slow down, letting it rest, letting it stop cooking. I mean, it doesn't get any easier to cut than this right here. And that's all there is to it. Well, let's spread it out, see what this beef looks like. I mean, that is gorgeous. Perfect, medium rare, even in the dead center. You pull that piece out, it's juicy, it's packed full of moisture, perfectly pink, no unevenness from cooking it in the indirect zone. That's what it's all about. Now I'm serving this beef tenderloin up with a creamy dill and horseradish sauce. It's got a little bit of a kick. I use some sour cream, some horseradish, some dill, a little salt and pepper to balance it, lemon juice and a little bit of mayo. Makes a perfect sauce to go with it. And I'm gonna get a piece of this out. Oh man, I know it's just gonna melt in your mouth. What I'm gonna do is just a little bit of sauce over. You know I'm gonna eat this whole piece, right? I can't help it. But let's see how it tastes. Like butter. You get the smokiness from the pecan wood from the grill. Beef tenderloin, super soft, super tender. It's the most tender part of beef on the cow. Putting it with the creamy dill and the herbs, it all goes with it. A little bit of a bite from the horseradish. Man, it doesn't get any better than that. I love it. So this is one recipe that's really easy to do. You can start with that whole PSMO beef tenderloin, break it down by hand and carve the center piece of that beef tenderloin out. Get it seasoned up. You could use whatever you want. I really like that herb crust on the outside of it though. Get it in indirect heat till the internal temperature hits about 125 and it's money every time. Serve it with the creamy dill and horseradish sauce. You got a fine dinner. Y'all, thanks for checking us out here at HowToBBQRight. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And Shell and I talk about this beef tenderloin recipe, all the other delicious stuff we're cooking here during quarantine on our podcast every Friday. So y'all can listen to that too. We'll see y'all next time. Ooh, man. It don't get no finer than beef tenderloin with the smoke and the herbs. You know I like them smoky herbs. That's good. That's hurt you good right there. Beef. This was for dinner.